All right, so you're taking on a sales manager role for the first time, huh?
Yeah.
Huge congrats. It's a big leap going from closing deals yourself to leading a whole team.
Yeah, it is.
And to help you navigate this new world, we're diving deep into this article by Darius Lohudafard. He's an engineer and serial tech entrepreneur. So he knows a thing or two about, building those high-performing teams.
Yeah, he lays out some really practical advice for first-time sales managers. It focuses on 4 key mindset shifts that you need to make to really thrive in this role.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to shift that mindset. First up, and this one might be a little counterintuitive. You need to shift from being a player to becoming an observer.
Yeah, it's like that classic analogy of the basketball coach. They're not out there scoring the points.
Yeah.
They're on the sidelines strategizing, motivating, developing their players, and that's your new job too.
So how do you actually put this into practice? The article talks about this technique called ride-along, used at Salesforce, where you're like observing your team in action without interfering.
Imagine you're shadowing one of your salespeople on a call.
Okay.
You're not there to jump in and close the deal. You're there to observe their technique, their interactions, their strengths, their weaknesses. And what's fascinating is that this gives you a real-world view of their process, revealing insights that you wouldn't get from just looking at, sales figures.
Okay, I see how that's valuable.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're on a ride-along and you see someone really struggling?
Yeah.
Isn't there a temptation to just jump in and save the deal?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, especially for someone coming from a top sales role themselves.
For sure.
That urge must be strong.
Oh, it's a natural instinct. But you got to think about the long game.
Okay.
Darius highlights how Xerox transformed its sales approach by focusing on early-stage coaching instead of those last-minute rescues. Helping your team develop strong strategies from the start is way more effective than constantly swooping in to fix things.
So it's about equipping them to succeed independently, rather than just being a Band-Aid when things go wrong. Makes sense.
Exactly. The article really emphasizes coaching your team on 2 key things: qualifying leads and building those compelling value propositions.
Right.
These are the foundations of any successful sale, and mastering them early on will pay off big time for your team.
Okay, on to the next mindset shift. From closer to coach. So how does someone who's used to being, the top closer adjust to this new coaching role?
Well, this is where your experience can really be an asset. You understand the pressures, the challenges of closing deals.
Right.
So you can empathize with your team and guide them based on what you've learned.
But it's not about closing deals for them, right?
Yeah.
It's about empowering them to become, better closers themselves.
Precisely. And to illustrate this point, Darius uses an example that might surprise you. Mark Roberge,
Okay.
former CRO of HubSpot. Roberge was a top-performing sales rep before moving into leadership. And like many new managers, he initially struggled to let go of that super closer mentality.
So he was tempted to just step in and close the deals himself.
Yes, but, it's understandable.
Right.
But Roberge quickly realized that this approach wasn't scalable.
Yeah.
If he wanted to build a truly successful team, he needed to focus on coaching and developing his reps, not selling for them.
He had to make that shift from player to coach.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about.
And his story is a great example of how even the most successful salespeople need to adapt when they move into a leadership role.
Yeah.
By embracing this coaching mentality, Roberge helped build HubSpot into one of the most successful sales organizations in the tech industry.
That's a pretty compelling example.
Yeah.
And it leads us right into our next mindset shift, from tasks to people. So it's less about, checking things off a list.
Yeah.
And more about what exactly.
It's about shifting your focus from just managing tasks to leading people. This is where strong leadership really comes into play.
Right.
Think about IBM's transformation under Lou Gerth.
Okay.
He completely shifted the company's focus from being product-centric to customer-centric.
Interesting.
And in a similar way, you need to become people-centric, prioritizing your team's development and well-being.
So it's not just about hitting those sales numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding your team members as individuals.
Absolutely.
Their motivations, their challenges, their goals.
Building those relationships, scheduling regular one-on-ones, and creating a supportive environment are crucial for developing a high-performing.
That sounds great in theory, but how do you actually make that shift from, taskmaster to people-focused leader?
A great first step is scheduling regular one-on-one meetings with your team members.
Okay.
But don't just use these meetings to review numbers or go over tasks.
Yeah.
Connect on a personal level, understand their aspirations, and offer support in achieving their goals. You're not just managing a sales team anymore, you're leading a group of individuals.
That's such an important distinction. Okay, so we've covered 3 mindset shifts.
Right.
From player to observer, closer to coach, and tasks to people. Let's move on to the 4th and final shift that Darius highlights in his article.
Okay. Okay.
This one might sound a bit abstract at first,
Right.
but it's incredibly powerful. It's the shift from outputs to inputs.
Okay.
Outputs versus inputs.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in a sales context? So instead of just focusing on hitting that sales target, the output,
Right.
you're saying you need to pay attention to the process that gets you there, the input.
Exactly. Think of it this way. If your sales process is like a well-oiled machine,
Okay.
hitting your targets becomes less about luck and more about consistent, predictable performance.
Right.
And Darius uses a brilliant analogy to illustrate this, the Toyota production system.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Tell me more about this Toyota connection.
So Toyota is renowned for its incredibly efficient and high-quality manufacturing process. A key element of that is their relentless focus on continuous processing.
Okay.
They don't just inspect the final product.
Right.
They analyze each stage of production, constantly looking for ways to streamline, eliminate waste, and enhance efficiency.
So how does that translate to managing a sales team?
Just like Toyota meticulously examines their manufacturing process, you need to regularly review your team's sales process.
Okay.
From prospecting to closing, identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement at each.
So it's like taking a magnifying glass to every step of the sales journey.
Right.
And figuring out how to make it smoother and more effective. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to involve your team in this process. They're the ones on the front lines.
Right.
So they often have valuable insights into what's working and what's not.
It's about creating that culture of continuous improvement where everyone feels empowered to, contribute their ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking this way, your role as a sales manager becomes less about dictating and more about facilitating.
Yeah.
You're creating an environment where your team can truly thrive.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. It's not about being the hero who swoops in and closes all the deals. It's about being the coach who guides and empowers the team to reach their full potential.
That's the essence of great sales leadership. Now, let's bring this concept of outputs versus inputs to life with a real-world example.
Okay.
Imagine you're a sales manager and your team is consistently struggling to meet their quota for qualified leads.
Okay. Sounds like a common problem. Where do you start?
Instead of just pushing your team to work harder, take a step back and examine the lead qualification process itself.
Yeah.
Are the leads coming from the right source? Are your salespeople using effective qualification criteria? Is there a disconnect between marketing and sales?
So you're looking for those bottlenecks, those points of friction that are slowing things down.
Exactly. By identifying those weak points in the process, you can start to implement targeted improvement. Okay.
Maybe you need to refine your lead scoring system or provide additional training on qualification technique or improve communication between departments.
So it's about addressing the root cause of the problem, not just the symptom.
Precisely. And the beauty of this approach is that it's not a one-time fix.
Right.
It's about establishing a mindset of continuous improvement, always looking for ways to optimize the process.
It's like that Toyota analogy, always striving for that perfect efficiency.
Exactly. And by focusing on the inputs, you'll find that the outputs, those all-important sales numbers, will naturally start to improve.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you'll be creating a more sustainable, scalable, and fulfilling work environment for your...
So to recap, we've talked about 4 key mindset shifts for new sales managers. From player to observer, from closer to coach, from task people, and from outputs to inputs.
Right.
These shifts are all about changing how you view your role and your relationship.
It's a transition from individual contributor to leader, from doing to enabling, from managing tasks to developing people. And these shifts are crucial for creating a team that's not only hitting those sales targets, but also thriving and growing together.
It's about creating a legacy that extends far beyond just numbers on a spread.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground today, and I know this is a lot to digest, but I think the key takeaway is that becoming a successful sales manager is a journey.
Yeah.
It's about embracing these mindset shifts, developing your skills, and constantly learning and growing.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are tons of resources available to help you along the way.
Yeah.
Books, articles, podcasts, online courses, you name it.
And don't be afraid to reach out to other sales managers, mentors, or coaches for guidance and support.
Absolutely. Learning from others' experience can be valuable.
So are you ready to step into that sales manager role and build that dream team? Remember, your success as a manager is measured by their success. It's about empowering them, not just closing deals yourself.
And it's about recognizing that you're not just managing a team, you're shaping individual. Their growth is your success story.
We've talked about observing your team, but what about observing yourself? What are your own strengths and weaknesses as a leader? How can you continue to grow alongside your team?
Oh, that's such an important point. Self-awareness is key to becoming a great leader.
Right.
Take some time time to reflect on your leadership style. What are you naturally good at? Where do you need to improve? How do you handle pressure? These are all things to consider as you navigate the role.
And it's a continuous journey, right? Like leadership isn't a destination. It's about constantly learning and evolving.
Absolutely. Be open to feedback, seek out mentors, and never stop learning. The best leaders are the ones who are always looking for ways to, grow and improve.
Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to share a story that really brought this whole outputs versus inputs concept to life for me. I was talking to a friend, a chef, and he was describing how he approaches, creating a new dish.
Oh, I love to know. Tell me.
He said it's not just about the final product, that delicious meal that ends up on a plate. It's about every single step of the process, sourcing the freshest ingredients, carefully prepping each component, experimenting with different cooking techniques.
It's about the entire culinary journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And he emphasized that by focusing on each input, each step in the process, he ensures that the final output, the dish itself, is the best it can be.
That's such a brilliant parallel to sales management. It highlights that the quality of your inputs, the process you follow, the culture you create, the way you develop team, ultimately determines the quality of your outputs, meaning your team's success.
It's a great reminder that success isn't just about hitting those sales targets. It's about creating a sustainable system that fosters growth and excellence.
Beautifully said. It's about the journey, the process, the people. It's about building something truly special.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from those 4 crucial mindset shifts to the importance of continuous improvement and even a culinary analogy for good measure.
I think our listener is well equipped to rock that sales manager role.
Absolutely. We've given you a lot to think about. But what's one final thought, one nugget of wisdom you'd like to leave our listener with?
Embrace the challenge. It's going to be tough at times.
Right.
But leading a team is incredible. You have the opportunity to make a real difference in people's lives, to help them grow and succeed, and to build something truly extraordinary together. Go out there and make it happen.
Amazing advice. It's time to put those mindset shifts into action. Good luck, and let us know how it goes. Remember, we're always here to support you on your sales leadership journey. Until next time, keep diving deep.